Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 660 for the 15th of December. Let's start off with the most major part, which I also did a quick update for those guys. Most likely the Americans and the Asians, because the Europeans might be going to sleep by that time, or went to sleep by that time. So over at the Donetsk Front. So at the Donetsk Front, there is some major updates, but we talk about the strategic situation first. The Russian forces is attacking Krasnohorivka. They are attacking from the south. They are attacking the north of Marinka. They are shelling Georgievka. They are attacking Boyeda, north of Novomikhailivka, the Menedjeri, the east of Novomikhailivka, and the south of Novomikhailivka. And this is the entire front line. As you can see that the Russian forces is attacking from the entire front line around here in this direction along this highway. And in particular, there is certain major news over at the Krasnohorivka region. We have been reporting about the fighting on Krasnohorivka for some time. As you can see, 5th to 6th December, 8, 11 to 13, there is a consistent Russian push against Krasnohorivka. So in the one of the latest mapping by Ryba, the pro-Russian source, we saw that the Russian forces have actually captured this area here. The Russian forces have actually made a successful push, and this has been reflected on the Deep State US mapping, the pro-Ukrainian source mapping. While the Ukrainians put this as a gray zone, Ryba actually put this as a definite capture by the Russian forces. Over at the Marinka situation, the Russian forces is continuing pushing in the northern part. Currently, they are actually lining up along this road, along this junction here, along this Ivana Franka Street. There is also geolocation of the fighting of the front line right at this at the edge of this border area. So the Ukrainian mapping, I think, put this as a gray zone. The Russian forces is still pushing, if I didn't remember wrongly. There's no fighting around the southern side. What happened is that Russians is now preparing for the battle at Georgievka as they started shelling this area here. So over in the further south, we also see the Russians are pushing for Boyeda, and they're also pushing south towards Novomikhailivka, and they're attacking the Menedjeri. So as we reported in the previous SITREP, Menedjeri is currently controlled by the Ukrainian forces. This is a heavily fortified region, and they just call it a Menedjeri fortified position. I think Menedjeri sounds is something like a zoo or something. So this is the situation. Ukrainian forces still hold that position. The Russian forces need to capture this and this entrenchment position in order to continue to push southward and put Novomikhailivka into a nearly surrounded situation. The Russian forces are also attacking from the east. There is geolocation of a massive explosion. It's most likely a not thermonuclear. Like a the word went off my brain. But yeah, it's a thermal explosion kind of thing. And the biggest update is actually over in the south. If I overlay the map, you'll probably see clearer. The Russian forces actually have advanced significantly from the south towards Novomikhailivka, and they are lining up along the settlement. And this is actually corroborated and reported on both sides. Particularly, this is reported by Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, acknowledging that the Russian forces is making a significant push, and they have basically, if you look closer, you'll probably see that whatever that's left here is basically the settlement region, and then I think this is a graveyard. So the Russian forces have been pushing all the way up to this point now, and yeah, so this is actually very significant, which means that remember, we previously have already geolocated fighting over at this junction, whereas the Russians, after that, the Russians actually withdrew because they can't hold that position, which means that the Russian forces is able to go all the way to this area here, which means the next likely move within the next week or two, we will see the Russian forces punching into Novomikhailivka itself and bring the battle into this settlement, which has held out for a very, very long time. There has been reports of fighting at Novomikhailivka since forever, and So we're gonna finally see battles in this area here, and this is the important outpost to protect Konstantinivka, which is actually a major junction for the Ukrainian forces. So if these fall, that means the defenses fall, and then the Russian forces will start to push in, and this is the significance of this settlement. And so that's all from the Donetsk Front, which also I did cover, in the quick update. We move on over to the more of a anti-clockwise direction. There's nothing being reported over in the Kherson Front, except that Ukrainian Defense Ministry continue to acknowledge that they have a beachhead over at Krinky. We move on into Zaporizhzhia Front. So this is Zaporizhzhia. This is Zaporizhzhia, and this is the Zaporizhzhia Front. Let me turn off the fan. I'm feeling a bit cold. So at Zaporizhzhia front, there is fighting continuing over at the Avdiivka sector, with the Russian forces pushing in the western part of Novopavlovsk, and also in the south. Sorry, this is a terrible arrow. South of Robotine. So previously I mentioned this very weird report about fighting west of Novopavlovsk. I actually read it wrong. It's actually not Novopavlovsk. It's actually Novopavlovsk. So I actually updated, so that report was reported on the 11th of December. I've updated and amended it. It's actually over at Novopavlovsk. Because I find it a bit weird. Why is it they keep saying the west? So I then started to look at the spelling and then say, oh, okay. So it's not Novoprokopivka. So I started to look at that. Oh, is it actually here? It's just here. Okay, so this makes a lot more sense, which means that the Russian forces is pushing in this direction. They are trying to close the gap and close the window, close the door, and then encircle this entire area. But of course, this easier said than done, I draw arrow is very easy, 1 second. The Russians probably have to take a few months. So there is a geolocation of Russian forces over at this junction of 3 lines, which actually is a progress. So the Russians previously do not have this 3 line. It was here, and then they actually pushed through and captured more grounds around this area here. So we move on away from the Avdiivka sector. Let me see if I have anything over this area here. Yes, there is. Over at the Velika Novosilka sector, the Russian forces is attacking in the area of Staromayoske. This is probably very one-off each, so nothing significant. As you can see, it's been very sporadic. 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th to 10th, 13th, now 15th. So it's very sporadic, so nothing to really shout about. Donetsk Front recovered. We go to the Avdiivka Front. The Russian forces continue their Avdiivka offensive, with fighting reported on the eastern part of Novobakhmutivka towards Bedaichi, Stepove, in the south around the industrial zone, Zhevene, as well as Pervomaisky. Ukrainian forces sent reinforcement to Novokalinove as well as Bedaichi. There is a withdrawal of Bradley getting towed by a tank along this road of Ocheretine, showing that the fighting is indeed very fierce, that Bradley is actually disabled. They just dragged along the road by the tank, which I think it just destroys the road, but what do I know? So there is further geolocation. There is a geolocation of Russian forces just south of Stepove, over this area here, corroborating the Russian advancement in the south of Stepove. And there's another geolocation of Russian forces within this forest area here. Previously, we have this report by Ryba saying that the Russian forces have made this progress. Now we have a geolocation to somewhat corroborate this situation over here. The geolocation is done by Kreminna Caprice. So, yeah, so this is a situation over at the Avdiivka Front. We move on away from the Avdiivka. There's nothing over at the New York Front. We move into the Bakhmut Front. So at the Bakhmut Front, this is Bakhmut City. In the south of Bakhmut Front, we have fighting continuing over at the Andriivka region and the Klishchiivka region. This time around, we do not have much details. Over in the southwestern part of the Bakhmut City, we have the Russians continue to make this push. Ukrainian forces is holding a very strong position at the southwestern edge of Bakhmut. We have a geolocation of the Russian tank firing at Ukrainian defensive position, and Ukrainian defensive position getting hit. At this position, the Russian tank basically come here, drive out, fire, and then they scooted. Further up in the northern flank, the Russian forces continue to push towards Bohdaniivka. There is no reports about fighting around the Kromove region. Other parts is the Russians are actually pushing for Orikovo-Vasilivka in this direction. So multiple flanking move, multiple vector of attack. If you look at the strategic picture, we can see Orikovo-Vasilivka, Bohdaniivka, and then there's a push towards the southwest of Bakhmut. There's Klishchievka and Andriivka, probably in this direction as well. So yep, so this is the current strategic situation over at the Bakhmut Front. We move on further. There's nothing over at the Siversk Front into the Kreminna Front. This is Kreminna city. The Russian forces are attacking in the eastern part of Terny towards Yampolivka and Torsky. Ukrainian forces counterattack over in the Terny region towards Zilivka. So currently this is a situation, it continues to be very positional in my opinion. Although the fighting over in this region has been much more intense than it was in November. Further up, there is also continued fighting over at Makiivka. So this is one of the newer areas of fighting that we have fighting reported in this area here. Mostly from the Russians. The Russians are attacking. Reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, we have the fighting over at 10, 12, 15. So it's still not very consistent. It could be just probing attacks at this moment, with the Russians trying to find know where exactly are all the defenses and probably try to find a breakthrough and make a real push in the near future. We have nothing over the Svetove Front. This is Svetove city. The entire front line went quiet. We now go into Kupyansk Front. This is Kupyansk city. At the Kupyansk Front, this is the Kupyansk Front. At the Kupyansk Front, the Russian forces continue their Kupyansk offensive. This time round, they restarted their battles in the area on the eastern part. We have fighting reported at this is Zagoryokivka, at Timkovka, over at Ivanivka and Kaislivka. So previously this attack over on this side has went quiet for a long time. I think for a few days. As you can see from the Ivanivka one report, the last is on the 12th. So around 3 days maybe to regroup, find a new idea, or just have some rotation, because the Russians have way more manpower right now than the Ukrainians. They are doing rotations, so the troops are not exhausted to the point of collapse. They do rotate. However, of course, there are definitely troops that we can see from footages of them stranded in the battlefield, and then they got picked out by the FPV drones. There are also one story that a Russian soldier and a Ukrainian soldier both were injured, and then they were holding on to each other for their dear life. Eventually, they both were hungry for a few days. The Ukrainian soldier died. The Russian soldier got rescued, and he got a lot of frostbite. The Ukrainian forces also counterattacked over in the area of the Liman Lake as well as towards Vyshana. So the strategic situation looks like this. So yeah, see how you want to look at it. Maybe the Russians are holding a defensive position around the Vyshana line. Maybe they do not want to go this way, but we do have previous report about them fighting towards Petropavlivka. So so let's see how this goes. Ukrainian forces are definitely, while they are quite spent, they are not entirely, incapable of fighting. So don't underestimate the Ukrainians' capability to fight, despite the lines are getting pushed back. But it do reminds me of the the World War II, where after the failure of the Russian the invasion into Soviet Union, and then as the Soviet Union counterattacked, and then they launched the counteroffensive towards Ukraine and whatnot, the German forces was getting pushed back. But it also doesn't mean that they are totally incapable of killing people, and so despite that they are getting pushed back, the Soviet Union still lost a lot of soldiers, despite having an overwhelming number of men and armored vehicles and whatnot. So, and that battle also took around, I think, 1 to 2 years. So don't underestimate the Ukrainians. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's it. This is the summary for the day of 660 for the 15th of December. There's some additional notes. The Tushka U was there's some I forgot the information, but Tushkayu was actually given. There was actually news in the, I think, early or late November that there is some spare parts or some ammunition that was given from Armenia, if I'm not wrong. So so this is why there might be the usage of Tushkayu, but it's still not widespread. I think there's only 1 to 2 launches, and also there is also rumors adding on to the previous reports about the Kinzhal attack. There are rumors that the Kinzhal attack was way more than just 3 of them. There's a lot more. There's also rumors that the entire battery, the totally new battery coming from Germany of the Patriot, or the entire battery system was destroyed by Kinzhal, which I feel that would make logical sense, because the last time that I know of a very significant use of Kinzhal was to attack the Patriot battery that was actually deployed over in the southern airport over at Kiev, over at this airport. So previously the Patriot battery was actually deployed around here, and it was taken out by the Kinzhal. And then after that, we do not hear of any Patriot being used in Ukraine for a very long time until these few days. And probably this new deployment of Patriot attract the attention of the Russian Defense Ministry, and then they decided to Kinzhal it again, to just to make a point that there's no point getting the most advanced surface-to-air missiles the West has to offer. It doesn't protect you. I think that's the main message that they want to send to the Ukrainians or to NATO. Anyway, thank you for watching. Do check if you have subscribed, press the like button, and I'll see you guys in the next update.